Viridian, the Green Guide, written by Clouds, read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 82, Insistence. Izuku was freaking out, but he was pretty sure he had an excuse. What in the world was Kacchan doing in the bad part of town? And in the middle of the night? It wasn't safe. What if he got attacked by a villain and didn't have permission to use his quirk to defend himself? Didn't he usually go to bed at 8 o'clock? Kacchan, he squeaked. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Kacchan looked just as shocked to see him there as he was, which was only a small comfort. What are you doing here? Well, Izuku hunched his shoulders and stared at the ground. All this time of hiding his vigilantism from everyone and trying to keep the heroes from figuring out he was quirkless, and Kacchan was probably going to go to all their old classmates and say, "Hey, guess where I saw Deku last night?" He wanted to cry. How is he supposed to get out of this? I was just out for a walk. You're a vigilante. Kacchan gaped at him. No wonder no one can figure out your frickin' quirk. Izuku flinched like he'd been slapped. Of course Kacchan wouldn't buy his half-baked excuse. No one would. Not when he was dressed as a vigilante and obviously out doing vigilante things. And he was right. No one ever thought that a quirkless kid could be a vigilante. And Kacchan had always known just how to expose his weaknesses, even with just a few words. It was like middle school all over again. Izuku hadn't ever wanted to go back. Kacchan gripped his hair as he kept staring at Izuku, eyes wide in shock. He opened and closed his mouth a few times, like he didn't even know what to say, and Izuku could definitely relate. Finally, he took a deep breath and let his hands fall. Does Auntie know? No, Izuku said softly. Tears prickled at the corners of his eyes, threatening to fall, but he wouldn't let them. Instead, he gave a wet chuckle. Fighting villains is too dangerous for people like me, so if Mom knew what I was doing, she'd probably bubble wrap me in my room for eternity. What about you? Does your mom know you're out here this late? I mean, kinda. Kacchan shrugged. The old hag knows I've been making a lot of friends and acting as an informant of sorts for the heroes, but I didn't tell her exactly what info I'm after or anything like that. She's kind of sad I ruined my sleep schedule, though. Wait, informant? Izuku's eyes widened as he connected the dots. You were the informant from the beach attack! Who the frick else would it be? Kacchan complained incredulously. The Easter Bunny? Izuku's mind was reeling. But I heard Eraser call you Kacchan. You never liked that name. How? I swear, no offense, but why haven't you exploded him yet? Kacchan sighed and ran a hand through his hair as he sat down at the edge of the roof. It's a long story. He didn't say anything else, and Izuku didn't want to die a painful death, so he didn't push. Instead, he sat down next to Kacchan and debated what to say. He could say something about how he was glad to see that he was all right after the attack, but knowing Kacchan, he would probably think that was pity. So he probably shouldn't bring that up. He'd almost forgotten what it was like to have to walk on eggshells like this. It made him even more grateful for the friendship he'd formed with Denki. He might have to deal with weird quirk situations and willingly getting mildly electrocuted on a semi-regular basis, but at least he didn't have to second-guess everything he said all the time to avoid dying. You know you're gonna get arrested eventually, right? Kacchan said finally. This shit's illegal, you know that. So what are you going to do then? Nothing, Izuku said. I mean, I'm not even technically a vigilante when you think about it. Under Japanese law, vigilantism is defined as using one's quirk to fight crimes. So Kachan looked at him in shock for a long moment before he started laughing. Oh shit, that's kind of brilliant. But wait, there's still assault and shit like that, right? You can't just loophole your way out of everything, can you? Izuku shrugged helplessly. I think you're underestimating just how many loopholes exist. Laws aren't written with me in mind. Wait a damn minute. Kachan suddenly turned on him, making Izuku flinch. If they can't even hold you, then why are you working so hard to avoid getting arrested? They can't do shit to you. So why do you keep running away? I just don't want things to change, Izuku said quietly, hunching in on himself a little more. Most people, well, nothing's ever the same after people find out. Kachan, you know that. Kachan flinched. I know. Izuku jerked his head up in surprise. Kachan's face was twisted with sadness and even regret, which was really confusing. If anything, Izuku had been expecting anger, since his last comment was kind of pushing it. He hadn't expected whatever this reaction was, and he didn't know how to feel about it. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, Kachan said quietly, which confused Izuku even more. I should never have treated you the way I did. I never should have called you Deku, and I'm actually trying to use your real name now, but I was a stupid bully, and I should have gotten my head out of my ass way sooner than I did. I wasn't a good kid, and I wasn't doing a good job of being a hero either, and you didn't deserve any of that shit. I'm so freaking sorry. Izuku just stared at him, an odd sense of wrongness making his skin crawl. This wasn't right. Kachan didn't make mistakes. He never had. Kachan was strong and amazing and a perfect future hero. That had been one of the only constants in Izuku's life, even before their quirks were supposed to come in. And Kachan didn't apologize. So why was he trying to do so now? Izuku was fine. He'd gotten through it, and he knew now that he was never going to be a hero, so he didn't need an apology, especially from someone who wasn't supposed to apologize. It was all just too much. He realized he'd probably let the silence drag on for far too long, and he should respond, so blurted out the biggest thing on his mind at the moment. Kachan, what are you even talking about? You don't have anything to apologize for. What the frick are you talking about, you damn nerd? Kachan said incredulously. I bullied you for 10 years. Of course I have shit to apologize for. I mean, it hurt, yeah, but, well, it doesn't really matter, right? You said it yourself, Kachan. I'm useless. I'm just a stepping stone so other people can be great. And, I mean, you made it into UA, so that was obviously right, at least on some level, Izuku pointed out. And, I mean, it's just the way the world works, Kachan. I'm quirkless. I'm always going to face discrimination no matter what. So why should it matter if it comes from you or from anyone else? Besides, if it had really been that wrong, the teachers would have stepped in and stopped you years ago. So our teachers were basically villains, Izuku. Kachan growled, and can you really look me in the eye and tell me a bully deserves to be a hero without making any changes? But you weren't really a bully. Sure, you got a little rough sometimes, but we were still kind of friends. I mean, we grew up together. Izuku tried, but Kachan cut him off. You can't be serious. He looked completely exasperated, which just made Izuku feel worse. This is exactly why I need to apologize so bad. I obviously messed up something in your brain because you didn't deserve any of that shit. You shouldn't have to live with being treated like dirt, and I personally should have been a way better human being. Why can't you realize that? You're not a terrible human being, Kachan. Izuku said, no, not anymore. Kachan crossed his arms, but I sure as hell was the last time we saw each other. I told you to jump off a roof, Izuku. Izuku rubbed his arm awkwardly. I mean, it's not like you were the only person to ever tell me that. But I was the first. Kachan pointed out. That wasn't okay, Izuku. And before you say you're used to it, you shouldn't have to be. It's really not a big deal, Kachan. Izuku didn't know if he believed that or not, but everything was just so weird and wrong right now that maybe if he just kept repeating it enough, maybe it would eventually be true. And even if it was, it's over now. I got out of the school. Yeah, after you were blamed for bullies breaking your damn arm, Kachan huffed. Great, yeah, that's a freaking improvement. Izuku winced. Kachan, why didn't you freaking show up to the entrance exam? Kachan asked. You fight real villains every single night. A bunch of robots would have been a piece of cake. And then you'd be in a hero course instead of giving Eraserhead a headache every night. Kachan. Izuku stared at his lap, picking at one of the holes in his jeans. You know why I can't be a hero. I thought I did. Katsuki sounded exasperated, but apparently I was frickin' wrong, wasn't I? Look at you, Izuku. I've seen videos of you fighting, and you're obviously not weak or useless like everybody always said, like I always said. All those things were just stupid, prejudiced, quirkless lies. I mean, you're basically already a hero. Look, can we just drop it? Izuku pleaded. He was tired. Seeing Kachan was stressful enough, but getting into a fight with him? Hearing him say all the things that Izuku had wanted to hear for years, but had already come to terms with the fact that he was more likely to develop a quirk than to hear them? It was all too much. And he felt like he was about to cry if he didn't stop talking about this right now. You said you wanted some info, right? Can we please just talk about that instead? Please? Kachan had always been stubborn, so it took a few long seconds of Izuku's puppy dog eyes before he finally closed his mouth with a click and scowled. Fine, whatever. I won't force you to accept my apology or whatever, but we're gonna come back to this later. Izuku. Izuku flinched a little at the name, which still just sounded so wrong, especially since he'd spent so many nights as a kid dreaming about Kachan actually using his real name. What had he done wrong? Has he done anything to convince Kachan that he wouldn't be a good hero? It must have been Izuku's fault somehow, so the least he could do was try to help him and answer his questions to make up for it, right? So, Izuku prompted after Kachan had been sitting in surly silence for almost a whole minute. The info? Katsuki sighed. He hadn't thought it was possible to feel worse than he had when he'd first realized he was acting like a villain. But here Izuku was, proving him wrong again. He'd known that he probably left Izuku with scars, but he hadn't really realized how deep those injuries had really gone. He wanted to shake some sense into the nerd, but didn't he really have a right to do that after he'd been the one to plant those ideas in his head in the first place? He owed Izuku an apology. But if he wouldn't accept it, then what? Maybe he owed it to him to be patient and let him recover at his own pace. Let him make his own decisions and not get in his way? Let him change the subject without question? The villain factory. Katsuki said eventually, what do you know about him? Are you sure? Izuku blurted out, it's a really dangerous case. Not that I don't think you can handle it. You're amazing, but, I mean, I'm not even supposed to be involved, so I know. Katsuki couldn't help smirking. Eraser keeps complaining about all the headaches you're giving him by working this case like a dog with a bone. I'm not trying to, Izuku whined. I'm trying to be careful, and I'm not even trying to. I just don't know why he insists on worrying so much. It's because he cares about you, you idiot. Katsuki rolled his eyes. He is a teacher. Give him some credit. I guess, Izuku frowned. But anyway, this isn't just taking down thugs in alleyways, Kachan. There are things going on here that even Eraserhead and All Might are afraid of. Are you sure you really want to be involved? I already am involved, Katsuki grumbled. You were at the beach attack, right? You ever see the tentacle villain that was tearing up the place? Izuku nodded. We all thought it was a berserker at first, but after I actually looked into it, I realized it was actually a combination of multiple quirks from at least 3 different people. We're pretty sure that something like this is actually what the villain factory has been chasing after this whole time. Katsuki swallowed as his mouth went dry. He was my friend. He is my friend. We met after you left school, and he helped me out a lot with figuring out what kind of hero I want to be. Then he disappeared, and I couldn't find him until... Oh, Izuku's eyes widened. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't mean to be disrespectful talking about him like that. Whatever, nerd. It's not a big deal. Katsuki cut him off. You were always into the quirk stuff anyway with your notebooks, right? The point is that he told me there were others and made me promise to save them even as the bees were going after him. I guess that makes sense, Izuku muttered. If All for One did finally figure out how to force the body to accept multiple quirks, then of course he would want to have multiple experiments running at once. Wait, back up, Katsuki said. You said that twice now, and I thought I just misheard you the first time or something, but obviously not. You keep saying Ogawa's got multiple quirks, but that's impossible, isn't it? You can't just take someone's quirk and give it to someone else. Quirks don't work like that, do they? Izuku gave him a look, and Katsuki swallowed. He got the feeling he was in for a long night. End of chapter.